Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Damon Martin.
And I'm Patrick Guerra.
And Patrick, tonight we are reviewing a movie from 2017 that won some Oscars, critically acclaimed, and I would say, I don't think I'm speaking out of term saying this, probably one of the most beloved horror films of the past 2 decades. A little movie from Jordan Peele called Get Out.
Oh, Damon, Get Out, here we go. Released, as you mentioned, in February of 2017, starring the likes of Betty Gabriel as Georgina, Lakeith Stanfield as Andre Logan King, Marcus Henderson as Walter, Caleb Landry Jones as Jeremy, Bradley Whitford as Dean, Catherine Keener as Missy, Allison Williams as Rose, and Daniel Kaluuya stars as Chris Washington. As you mentioned, Damon, written and directed by none other than Funny Man himself, Jordan Peele. And we are talking about Get Out, a budget, Damon, of only $4.5 million. So a low budget horror film with a worldwide gross of $255 million. Damon, it has to be said, the Oscar winner for Best Original Screenplay, arguably one of the most important Oscars you can win. This is Get Out.
And it should, and I'm being honest, so as we're getting ready to start this podcast, I was thinking about all the awards this movie won, and it was nominated for many more at the Academy Awards that year. It was nominated for Best Picture. Oh, by the way, I just want to throw this out there at the very beginning. We are going all spoilers tonight, just so you know. This movie is, at this point, 8 years old. We can talk spoilers, so just be aware. That movie got nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Original Screenplay, and it ultimately won Best Original Screenplay. Best Actor was Daniel Kaluuya. Best Director, of course, Jordan Peele, and then Best Picture was everybody. And Blumhouse, who was actually one of the producers on this film. And it got nominated. It won Best Original Screenplay. Now, I was looking at the Oscars this year, and I'm certainly not going to diminish the great achievements that were done in film that year. The winner for Best Picture was The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro, a guy you and I both love and adore.
And it's a great movie.
Best Directing was also Guillermo del Toro. Best Actor was Gary Oldman in The Darkest Hour. And Best Original Screenplay, as you mentioned, was a winner, which was Jordan Peele. Out of all those awards I just mentioned, is there any other one that Get Out should have won for? Like, I know you're a Shape of Water fan, but is there any other of those awards that should have gone to something from Get Out of the nominations they received? So it was Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Original Screenplay, and I think, am I getting that right? Is that the last one they got? Best Original Screenplay. Yes, those four. Those are the four nominations.
And you did say Best Actor, right? Daniel Kaluuya?
Yes, best
Yeah.
best picture, best director, best actor, best screenplay. They won best screenplay. Of the other three, did Get Out deserve any of those?
I mean, that's always a matter of taste. Now, I did call Shape of Water that year my top movie that year, and then it won the Oscar, which I'm not gonna brag, Damon. My picks are pretty good. Like my picks are the percentage is high. And so I was like, that's your. Sometimes I pick the winner, even though it's not my choice. Like I told you one, I said Damon Coda's going to win Best Picture, and you go, that's the most mid movie I've ever seen. It's not winning. I go, it's winning, and then it won.
You're right.
So I I don't think
By the
Shape of
way,
Water.
I stand by the fact that it's a very mid movie. But
Boy, I did not like that movie, but I can smell a winner when I see one, Damon, and that one stunk of Oscar win. Um, I thought Shape of Water was brilliant and a perfect movie. You can turn the sound off, you can watch it, and you know everything that's happening. It's incredible performances, cinematography, directing, you name it, storytelling. It's all there. It's all there. Get Out, it's all there too. This was a pick 'em, Damon. This is you could have called this one a majority draw. You could have given them both the award. I would have been fine with it, or you could have given Get Out the award over Shape of Water, and I would have been fine with it. And I jumped up and down and cheered when they won Best Original Screenplay, not just because I'm always pining for horror to win awards, but because at that year, watching all these films, there was no script more original. We're always I hear everyone bitching about they don't make original shit anymore. They don't make, it's all comic book movies and IP and that's it. By the way, not true. You're just not digging for it. It's all out there. And here's a perfect example. Get Out is a perfect example of an incredibly strikingly original film from Jordan Peele, that really talked about race relations in this very satirical and fun way. By the way, congratulations to you and I, Damon. Two white guys over 40 talking about Get Out. We're going to tell everybody the business about it. You're in luck tonight, folks. Um, it was so original and so clever. So what super well directed. I mean, I really think it was Guillermo del Toro and Jordan Peele and pretty much everybody else left in the dust. And to answer your question on a long way around, the only other thing I would have given to this movie, if I was like for sure being like this was the robbery, is Daniel Kaluuya as best actor. Because I saw Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman. Listen, Gary Oldman's a great actor. I'm not here to like I didn't see anything new there. I didn't see anything. It was the coda of best actor wins. Like, of course that'll win. He's in all the prosthetics, and he's Winston Churchill, this big historical figure that everybody loves. And the movie was okay. I mean, it's not a movie I sit down and revisit from time to time. I bet actors probably sit down and revisit that from time to time, but an actor would be wild not to sit down and study Daniel Kaluuya's performance in Get Out because, and this isn't like his first ever role, but boy, when you talk about breakout roles, Daniel Kaluuya in this movie was just like it was a knockout performance, a very, very, very good performance because of his ability to express restraint. I'm sort of spoiling some some of our category from later. Can you guess who my best performance is later, folks? I mean, just by chance, who's my best performance? Um, this movie's tremendous, Damon, tremendous. And Jordan said pretty clearly that this was really a response to the Obama era, and it was written and I think it was made at the tail end of the Obama administration. Like they were actually in production before Trump was elected president, so it was still being made before we knew what was next. And what he had heard a lot during the Obama era was racism's over. We have a black president. Racism's over. And he's like, huh, I don't think it is, but I just don't think it is. And he goes, and it shows a lot in this movie, Damon. And let's get into the plot a little bit here, right? So we have our
Well,
man Chris.
let me cut you off real quick. Let me because I do want to mention about the awards. I didn't get to talk about the awards.
Okay,
I want to say this.
okay,
I just want to throw this out there. This isn't an instance in 1991 with Goodfellas losing to Dances with Wolves, which does not hold up. I'm sorry, Kevin Costner. I like Kevin Costner very much, but him winning Best Picture and Best Director over Martin Scorsese and Goodfellas is a fucking joke. That should not have won over Goodfellas. And Robert De Niro, like, there's so many awards that movie should have won. The only one they got was Joe Pesci. This is not that. The Shape of Water is a very good movie. But I would argue, I think you're right with Daniel Kaluuya, with Gary Oldman. You'll not find a bigger Gary Oldman fan to me. I mean, I've been a fan of that guy since he played Drexel in True Romance. Like, I love Gary Oldman. But that, I know I mentioned this on the podcast before, I've never enjoyed biopics winning a ton of awards because it just feels like you're cosplaying as another person. I've never really enjoyed that because you're just like, I got to put in teeth and I got to do my best Freddie Mercury impression, or I got to put on all the prosthetics and I got to do my best Winston Churchill impression. I understand maybe Daniel Day-Lewis doing Lincoln because there was no video of Lincoln. Like we have no idea like what he actually, but even that, I'm just like, I've always butted against those historical picks winning a shit ton of Oscars because it's just like, I feel like cosplaying is winning versus like when Daniel Day-Lewis wins for There Will Be Blood, that's a totally original film. When he plays that character, it's just all him. It's his creation along with Paul Thomas Anderson. So that's not this. But I would say with Gary Oldman it is. So Daniel Kaluuya would be one. But I would also argue I think Guillermo del Toro deserved it for directing. I don't want to take that away from it. It's a beautiful film. But I would argue Get Out, to me, is slightly ahead of Shape of Water as a film. Because I think when you think about historical context, what a win for Get Out would have been. You know, we talked about when they nominated Black Panther, which was a hugely important film for a superhero film. It was an incredibly important film.
It's also
and it got
really
nominated.
good.
It's also, it is very good. But everyone's like, it got nominated. That was the win. It got nominated, right? And I agree, it was a win in and of itself. We all knew going in it had very little chance of actually winning. We already kind of decided before those Oscars were like, great, it got nominated. That's probably about as far as it's going to go. Get Out winning, I think, would have really been a cultural shift in terms of what this film was saying and what it means to the greater culture. So, as much as I enjoyed Shape of Water, I don't know that that's a film that's going to live on forever. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great film, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about Shape of Water today. I definitely still hear people talk about Get Out. So that's why I say, like, in the cultural significance of it all, I think that should have won Best Picture just because of how good, like you said, it's dead even in terms of like quality of movie. I agree.
Yeah.
But when you think about the impact of it all, I think Get Out should have won. And I think Guillermo should have won for director. I love Jordan Peele, but I think Guillermo should have won for director. But I think those three awards should have gone to Get Out. That's my argument. Just when you talk about they're both perfect films, but what's a more impactful, important film? That's Get Out.
And that's the irony of it all, right? So here we are again, two white guys over 40 telling you about the message of Get Out. But the irony of it all is like he was just saying like, hey, we're kind of invisible over here. Like the black community in America who are part of the founding, the reason America's America is because of black culture. Just do your homework. Like that's not a controversial statement. It's literally just like this is how this country got built in very nefarious ways, right? And it has trickled into society ever since. And so he's going, we're sort of in the background, unheard here, and used for what is great about us, and and left to the side, left without a voice, left without any sort of agency in the grander society. So it's very apropos that at the end of the day, the Oscars couldn't see what was in front of them. Now, you can argue like, we didn't know Dances with Wolves wasn't going to be talked about for years and years and years as something culturally super significant. But at the time they went, well, we just think that's the best movie at the time. And I feel like that happened a little bit with Get Out here, which is like they had no idea that because they again, a lot of people looked at Obama's presidency as problem solved, problem solved. And he's like, no, it's so not problem solved. This is literally the inspiration for this movie is there is no problem solved here. Because largely Chris interacts in this movie with people who consider them, or at least outwardly face as liberal minded, as progressively minded. They're okay that Chris is in a interracial relationship with their white daughter, all this stuff, but there's still this just air of something wrong under the surface. And we should get into the plot of that in a moment. But we will, and we will. It's just that it makes sense that at the time they couldn't see that this movie was going to matter. It was going to continue to matter, and it continues to matter to this day. And it continued to be it continues to be talked about to this day as such an important piece of cultural art. Like it just really fucking is. And you know me, Damon. When it's time to get artsy fartsy, I get way up on my art horse, and I can't wait to talk about stuff like that. And I think of The Substance and how apropos that was in its Oscar run last year. It literally lost to a movie about a young, beautiful woman being sexualized. The Substance lost to the movie that it was talking about. The irony of that is incredible to me. But I think and the Substance continues to be talked about. The Substance continues to permeate in the culture. People still are discovering it and going, oh my God, like it really speaks to me. I listen to people who don't even watch horror go, man, The Substance, when they really tapped into something there. It's still getting talked about to this day. So I think the movies with a message are still going to get overlooked all the time for sort of like the old reliables, the Dances with Wolves. Even The Shape of Water is kind of an old reliable, right? It's like the woman in love with the monster. It's King Kong, it's Frankenstein, it's all that shit. Like it's something that's safe and they understand. It's Coda. They understand that. It's something simple and safe. Get Out's not safe, Damon. But we could go on and on and on and on about like the cultural relevance of it. We should talk a little bit about the plot, Damon. You're a story guy. Break it down for us really quick because I think Get Out is so simple and so effective. And I swear, Damon, every time this happens, the best movies are the simplest movies.
So just kind of kicking these off. So this was this movie when the actual movie actually starts. We're kind of back in time, so to speak. It starts before the actual plot starts, and that's where we are introduced to a young man played by the great Lakeith Stanfield, who I love, by the way. I'm a big
He's
Lakeith
great.
Stanfield guy. He's walking along, talking on the phone. He's in a weird neighborhood, and he's like, "Where am I going?" And then you see him getting kidnapped, and then we just kind of cut away. We don't know what happens to him, and we meet Chris, who is a photographer, and then we meet his girlfriend Rose. And Rose is about to take Chris home to her family. They never say exactly where they're at, but it's a small town, and they've been together for 4 months, which I'm not gonna get. We'll get into the whole like, would you actually go meet your girlfriend's parents 4 months in? Everyone moves at their own speed, but he's like 4 months in. He's like, I'm taking you home to meet my parents. We're gonna stay there for the weekend. And at one point, Chris is like, do they know? And Rose is like, what do you mean, do they know? And she's like, do they know I'm black? And she's like, no. And right then, Chris is like, oh, because like it or not, it's that red flag that you're like, uh-oh, like, what am I walking into? And she's like, oh, no, no, my dad would have voted for Obama for a third time if he could. He's super liberal. He's not going to care. They're not going to care. And so he's like, all right. And then they go on their car ride. I mean, even on the car ride, they hit a deer and they get pulled over by a cop. And a cop's like, I need to see your ID. And she's like, why do you need to see his ID? He's not driving. And we see the racism just kick in immediately and why Chris would be paranoid. They get to the house and they meet her parents, and her parents are just like overjoyed. Like, hey, we're huggers, man. Come in here and give us a hug. They care far more about Chris smoking than they do about him being black, or at least that's what they say on the surface. But as they're there, they meet. He meets her brother Jeremy, and he's kind of a weird, kooky guy. And there's just this underlying like tension, but a lot of it could be paranoia. And I read a lot of interviews with Jordan Peele talking about this. He wanted you to see this through the eyes of Chris, which is he really seeing what he's seeing, or is he just being overly paranoid? Because he's like, and I know Jordan Peele said this, like, I've been in those situations where like my radars goes up and I'm like, this has got to be racism, and it's not. And he's like, shit. So you have to he's like, I want to put the audience in Chris's perspective where you're not sure, is he paranoid or is it actually some weird shit going on?
And before you continue, I want to really touch on this because it was something I picked up on it then, but man, it hits you again in another wave when you watch it. Is that first interaction with Dean, Rose's father, and he's like, oh, how long's this thing been going on? Like he puts a little stink on it, right? Like to try and be cool, and obviously he's just being a cringe dad, and he's embarrassing Rose and all that stuff. But then him and Chris break off, and they just have their own conversations. And on the surface of this conversation, nothing is out of the ordinary. Like zero things are out of the ordinary, except that Dean keeps bringing up the fact that Chris is black and tries to bring the subject back to Chris is black. And what I found so like interesting about that is like when people go and again on the surface, Dean appears completely progressive as far as you can tell. He doesn't even appear racist. But if he's not racist, why does he fucking keep bringing up race? If it's not about race, why do you keep bringing it up? And that's putting me, the audience member, in Chris's shoes, where I'm like, if it's not about race for you, do we have to keep talking about the fact that I'm black? Damon, again, look, I'm a white man. I'm admitting it right now. Okay, I do not know or understand
Hold
the
on,
black
you're
experience.
white. Hold on, holy shit, you're white, man.
But I have a certain look to me, right? I have long, dark, straight hair, and my eyes are shaped a certain way. Many people have mistaken me for Asian. Many people have. I sat with a woman at a like a fundraiser, and she took me on this very long anecdote about a South Korean person that she knew because she thought I was South Korean. And I'm like, I go, this is what it must be for like a Korean person to walk around like mixing with white folks. I'm going. You only told me this story because you thought I'd like to hear it because you thought I was Korean. And I'm like, it's strange behavior. And this movie kicks off with strange behavior. It's not that anyone's like, it starts, believe me, the aggression starts, and the reasons to truly be suspicious of these people start. But in the outset, I love that play of language. And I thought, boy, this is so simple and effective if you can just sit in Chris's shoes and experience that shit. But Damon, please continue,
Well,
because
let me just
it
say,
only gets crazier from here.
well, one of the reasons I love this entire movie, for there's a multitude of reasons. One of the reasons I love this is because it's that underlying, do you know something's wrong with what's being said, but it's not that outward racism,
Right.
right? Because, like, let me be perfectly honest when it says I do not know what it's like to live in a person's shoes that goes through that, but I do know, just from I'm talking like on the smidgen of an experience, as a big guy with tattoos. Like, when I went to visit when I was first dating my girlfriend, she lived in Tennessee, and she lived in a, not a small, it was a big town, but like she lived in like a small town outside the big town, and we'd go walking. We went to like a shop, like a little shopping area, and like, you would have thought I had my head on fire. People staring at me like, "Oh my god, what is this weird tattooed guy doing in our town?" Like, everyone was just, it was so
Yeah.
uncomfortable because I was like the only person. Now, again, let me be clear, I certainly don't know what it's like to be a minority. I'm just saying, like, I felt it. Like, I felt everyone's eyes on me. Like, what am I doing here? There are plenty of movies that deal with that level of racism for a black person, an Asian person, a trans person, whatever it is, that level of discrimination where it's just like off-putting tension, anger almost, right?
Yeah.
Like, get out of here. You don't belong here.
I've gotten that.
What Get Out does so brilliantly, it's almost the reverse of, like, they're trying too hard to welcome Chris in.
They're overcorrecting.
But that doesn't mean there's no racism here. But I love the element of that Jordan Peele presents in this, because, as we know, and I'll get into plot in a second, but as we know, the entire point is to take Chris's body from him. So they're not opposed to becoming a black man in this movie, but that is a whole other level of evil and racism on a different level. But they're not outwardly racist in that way, which is what makes this movie so, like, you really have to take your time to figure it out, because they're not being cruel to him. They're not being outwardly, like, they're not being outwardly racist towards him. And it's a different level. That's why I said this movie's so brilliant, because he's not just doing it like he does it with the cop in that first interaction when they get pulled over. He's like, I need to see your ID. Why do you need to see his ID? He had nothing to do with this. But then Dean is like, come on in for a hug, my man. And, like, I would have voted for Obama at third. It's that uncomfortable, like, dude, I get it. Like,
I'm black, you're white. Right. Got it.
We get it. So after that uncomfortable situation, they have dinner and they meet Jeremy, her brother, and he's a really weird, off-putting guy as well.
Can I pause on Jeremy for just a sec? Sure. When they have their interaction about MMA, right? Because Jeremy's like obsessed with MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff. And I just thought of you specifically because you and I both train combat sports. I thought, like, that's the guy that I hate training with on the mat. Like, it was just a total aside, because he thinks he's going to become a UFC fighter because he's like training. He's like a 4-stripe white belt in jiu-jitsu. So he thinks he's going to be a fucking, like, like, he's like this, he's Mr. Badass. And it's like, dude, please lower your intensity level. Like, I just hated that. But anyway, go on.
It's funny you say that, because, like, you and I have trained. We talk about this. We both train in combat sports, and as a 6'3" dude, I'm pretty adept at handling myself if something went down. One of my best friends in the world, who I do a podcast with every week, is Matt Brown, UFC legend, most knockouts in welterweight history. Matt Brown, one of my closest friends. I don't harbor any illusion that if we actually fought, he would fuck me up in about 8 seconds. Okay, yeah. So, like, but this guy is talking about himself like he's the UFC champion. He's like, oh yeah, you don't understand combat. And I'm like, dude, like.
Yeah, he thinks he's Matt Brown. It's like Matt Brown would just flick him.
You would get humbled so quickly if you were that dude. Like, it was just funny to me. That's what made me think of that. I was like, I know I can handle myself, but I also have a best friend who's like, would fuck me up 6 ways to Sunday if he really wanted to. This dude's like, I'm jiu-jitsu, and what do you do? Would you like MMA? And I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Anyways. Um, so they have this dinner, and things are still weird, but not not totally off-putting. But what really ratchets it up is when they have this big get-together at the Armitage's house. That's the family. And this is when the weird shit just starts going on overload. Like everybody that meets Chris is like touching his arms and like measuring him and asking him like, is he strong? And let me see your golf stance. And then he meets Lakeith Stanfield, who we see early on, except now he's wearing like old person. I'm sorry if I'm insulting older people, but he's wearing like older clothes and like a
Yeah.
fedora, and he's with a woman who's like 30 years older than him, and he's not. He's
But
like, "What's
Damon,
up?"
I just wanted to let you know you skipped a real big critical
Oh yeah,
spot, and I did this the other day. So I do we do have to mention that before that,
I,
the night
that's
before
true.
that big
The night,
event,
you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention the hypnotism. So
because this is such a big part to me that
yeah, you're right.
I'm actually
You're right.
desperate to talk about.
You're right. So Chris is a smoker. We learned that very early on, and he's trying to like quit for Rose, and her family's already kind of on him. And he goes first off, he goes outside to smoke, but he doesn't, and he runs into the lawn keeper, the gardener,
Walter,
whatever you want
yeah.
to call it, Walter. And Walter's just sprinting, running at him, and then he just darts in the other direction. He's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And this is also while the maid, who is also acting very odd and weird and staring at herself in the mirror and like staring at herself in the window, and she's acting bizarre. Georgina is her name, and so
Georgina,
he's
yeah.
already. These are the two black people in the house. One's a house. One is the maid, and the other one is the groundskeeper. They're both fucking weird. And Chris is like, "What the fuck is going on here?" And so he goes back inside, and that's when he runs into Missy Armitage, who is Rose's mother, and she is a psychiatrist and a hypnotist, and she talks to Chris about the death of his mother when he was like 11 years old. He starts telling this story, and you can see how painful it is. And she starts bringing him into this conversation, and she's quietly clinking the glass on her tea the entire time. And Chris is getting very emotional, and she's drawing this information about how he feels guilt that he was watching TV at home and his mother was dying in a hit and run accident. And she eventually puts him into such a trance, she clinks her glass, and boom, he's falling into the sunken place. And he sees her almost like a TV screen floating away from him. And then when he wakes up, he's in his bed, and he's like, "I don't know what the fuck just happened." And this sounds like what you want to talk about, the hypnotism thing and what Missy does to him.
I mean, like, okay, I remember sitting in the theater and witnessing the Sunken Place on the big screen and thinking, my God, this is just it's the Martin Scorsese meme, like cinema, pure cinema. Like, whoa, dude, like Kubrick-esque levels of like intense visual imagery right there, right? The rhythm of the cup, the clinking of the spoon, his emotions, his hands ringing on the chair, like all the tension building. It's like Hitchcockian, Kubrickian, like I was like, holy shit, like Jordan Peele is a fucking really good director. And then she goes, "You're going to sink," and he's like, "No, no, no, no." And she goes, "Sink." And then all of a sudden he sinks through the bed because he's imagining himself as a little kid sitting there watching that TV, not trying to help his mom. Very important, by the way. I always like breezed over how important the mom stuff was, but we'll get to that. He sinks through the bed into this black void, and in slow motion, he's falling perpetually falling as this little TV monitor that is his consciousness shrinks in the distance, and he can barely see it, and he can't move, and he's in this perpetual silent scream, and you're like, holy shit, that's fucking intense. And like that's all I got from it the first time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I go, that's just fucking cool. Whatever this is, whatever Jordan Peele has shaped here is fucking rad. But I didn't think about why he shaped it and what it means. And I got more insight into that by just listening to him talk about the Sunken Place. Because the Sunken Place is now iconic, Damon. When you say the Sunken Place, everybody knows what the fuck you're talking about. It's part of the reason why this movie continues to be in the zeitgeist. We continue to talk about it. And the way Jordan describes it, he's like, this is what it's like living as a black person in America, you feel detached from the reality that you want. You have no agency. You sit back and you have to watch the world. You don't have a voice. You don't have the ability to move. You are frozen in this place and you have to watch everything unfold in front of you. There's no way to get around it. I could have never picked that up because I don't have those experiences. But when I hear it come out of Jordan's voice, and when I hear about why he constructed it the way he constructed it, and I think about how for you know, almost a decade now, the Sunken Place is synonymous with this terror, and to know the real reasoning behind it is fucking jaw dropping because it's so like visually striking, but all of those visual pieces mean something very, very real and grounded in this real reality. And it's terrifying. It's a terrifying thought to be stuck in a black void and not be able to move while somebody has control over everything that you do in your life. It's Damon, I'm damn speechless.
It's a brilliant scene, and you mentioned Jordan Peele the way he explained it, and I'm glad he did because I think, and we joked about like the two white guys trying to explain a very important black movie. Um, I'm really glad that Jordan Peele addressed this because, as you said, and I'm watching this I feel like I understand. I can comprehend and understand important issues, but you can't live it.
Yeah.
I can't live it. I can say walking around a neighborhood and people staring at me because I have tattoos, it's a little off putting, but I don't know what it's like to live with that every single fucking day of my life. I can't even begin to relate to that with what people deal with racism and other discrimination, transphobia and all these different things. I can't experience that. I just can't. What I can do is sympathize and try to understand. Try to understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
So when I'm with you, when I see the Sunken Place in the movie, I'm like, God, this is like creepy. This is like the song One from Metallica, where the entire concept of is a guy, a soldier veteran who's trapped in his own body and he can't speak, he can't move, but he can think and feel and hear his own voice, but no one else can hear him. Like he can't move, he can't physically communicate. And like imagine being trapped in your own body. That is a terrifying, terrifying idea, right? And so that's my first instinct when I see the Sunken Place. Like you see him falling and you see him be like, no, and he's reaching and grabbing and there's nothing to grab onto and reality is just floating further and further away. And then later in the movie when they talk about it again, when they talk about like actually putting the person's consciousness into him, he's like, you'll still be there. A piece of you is still there, but you're not cognizant, like you're not in control.
Yeah.
And that reminded me again of that Metallica thing. It's like, that's terrifying to think about somebody else. So that's what I immediately took from watching the movie was like just that fear of terror of not being in control. But then when you add in what Jordan Peele talks about, like what it's actually like to be a black person living in this world and not having your own agency and your own ability to make these decisions and affect yourself and affect the world around you, that adds a whole other layer. Now, and I know Jordan Peele has talked about this, like he's like, I want people to take away what they take away. Like there's a message in this film, very clearly a message in this film. But he also says I want people to enjoy it. So like if you enjoy it for the terror of the being in the Sunken Place for what the Sunken Place is, that's also terror. But you can take it away on a deeper level. And so I didn't get it either when I first saw it. I didn't get it to that level. And then when I saw it and read it, now I've seen Get Out probably 20 times, I do get it. I do understand it to a deeper level. I still can't totally know what it's like because I've never lived it. But it's a very layered like script and performance. And that moment of Daniel Kaluuya sitting in that chair and the tears running down his face and the fucking fear and the paralyzation of when he sits there and he's like, I can't move. And she's like, sink. That might be like the defining moment of what is Daniel Kaluuya is one of my favorite actors, by the way. I don't know if I've ever mentioned on the show before. He's one of my favorite actors working in Hollywood today. that moment, like years and years and years from now, when he's getting some sort of like lifetime achievement award, that scene needs to play because that is expressed in such beautiful terror without saying a word.
Yeah.
That is one of the most beautiful shots. And I know it's the iconic shot. Like, of course, when you look at any poster or any, screenshot of Get Out, it's always him with the tears running down his face and that shocked look. But you got to understand, like, how brilliant that is and how fucking terrifying that is. I just had to mention that. I love that scene. I
No,
love his performance.
It's so iconic. We could spend the whole podcast really talking about this scene because this scene makes the movie. When you say Get Out, people think of this scene, right? And then learning like how like all the little pieces, all the little details of that scene, like even just as he's falling and he's screaming, but you don't hear anything. That's Jordan Peele saying we scream as a community. The black folks scream and nothing happens, and we scream into a silent void and nothing happens. And I go, holy shit, and because look, I'm nowhere near the level of filmmaker Jordan. I only aspire to reach about half his distance. If I do, I feel very good about myself. But like when I put stuff together, I have a lot real deep meaning and details in every little thing that happens, and then I love hearing what people got from it, and it's like totally different than what I came up with.
Yeah.
But like it has a lot of deep meaning to me. And then and for this is a cultural moment where black folks watched that scene and went, "Uh-huh, I know what that's about. I know the feeling. I know what I know what Chris is going through in that moment." And it is actually important to follow up that moment with the next scene, which is the next day. All the cars arrive and it's a bunch of old white folks and they come out and they are really just there to kind of see Chris. And it's weird. It feels weird. The only way I can even like try to parallel this is just being the new boyfriend, which you've been too, and you get passed around the family thing, and they're basically sizing you up. But in this instance, Damon, let's be real. When they're sizing him up, it's strange, and they do go through like the awkward, kind of a heightened version of what he did with Dean, which is people just bringing up race a lot, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna be like, and it gets exhausting after a while. He's just kind of like, dude, I need to take a break. I really do. He goes upstairs, he takes a break, and then he peeks at the glass, and he's like, I think I might know that guy. And he's like, I think that dude's name is Dre, if I'm not mistaken. It's Lakeith Stanfield, who was missing at the beginning of the movie. And I love how Jordan Peele makes his steps because he just showed us the sunken place, and now he's going to show us someone who's living in the sunken place, which is Dre, who goes by Logan. He introduces himself. Hello, how are you? It's nice to meet you. My name's Logan. And he's dressed, like you said, like kind of like an older person. Like he's with a woman that's about twice his age. And she's holding his arm and they're lovey-dovey, and he's like, man, this doesn't line up. This really doesn't make sense. And he's trying to talk to him kind of in their own in what's called coding, which I don't know if anybody knows that. Coding is like sort of your cultural language you grew up with. And he's talking coded with Logan, and Logan's not reciprocating. He's like, I don't get it. And he did a little bit of that with Georgina too. And Georgina also is like not really responding, and he's like, something's weird. Like
he's like, don't worry, I wouldn't snitch on you. And she's like, snitch? He's like,
yeah,
I wouldn't tell it. She's like, oh, tattletaling.
Oh, like, tattletale. And I go, yeah, tattletale.
Yeah. No one says tattletale, but sure, okay. And then that was the moment with Logan, like as off-putting as it was, he goes out for the fist bump and he shakes his hand, and you're like, okay. So let me bring this up real quick. This whole party scene before we get to when he meets the gallery owner,
yes,
played by the great Stephen Root, who is probably the most normal person there because he's just like, I'm a fan of yours, of your photography. And he's like, oh, you're that guy, you're the gallery owner. And he's like, yes. Like that's the first person in this entire situation besides Rose who has not been weirdly bringing up race, like, and he's a blind man, and he's just like, I know it's kind of ironic, an art gallery owner is a blind man. He treats Chris as an equal, like he's not like, oh, I really like this black artist. He didn't say that. He's just like, and so like that's the first moment where Chris is kind of disarmed briefly because this guy's just treating him normally. But everybody else is like, I'm a Tiger Woods fan. You like Tiger? And you're like, so here's my question. You and I, now you're in a little different situation. I don't want to bring up your personal life too much, but you've been with your wife like many years, like
Decades at this point,
yeah.
yes.
I dated. I was engaged with a different girl. Like I've gone around. Now I've been with my current girlfriend for 12 years. So we're that's pretty much the end of that's the end of the road. I've met my end of the road girl, but I've dated and been around a lot of other situations, and I've had those kind of uncomfortable parent meetings. You know what I mean? And they happen at different times in my life. Sometimes they happen in college. Sometimes they happen after college. Like I said, I was not always a super heavily tattooed person. They've all been at different points in my life. But we've all had those scenarios where you're like, this is fucking weird. Like, this is just like, some family members like talking to you too much or some whatever. Now you're probably a little different because you've been with your wife for so long, so you didn't go through that as much. But
The wedding, though, the wedding was funny, but I could tell you why in a minute.
but that's what I'm talking about. But so here's my question, and I'm acknowledging this as a guy, as a white guy. I can't live in Chris's shoes, but just watching a movie, I can experience it. Was there enough red flags in this whole fucking meeting where he should have just been like, "We're getting the fuck out of here"? Because watching it the first time, it was really uncomfortable and off-putting, and like, God, this is just, oh man, this is getting really like uncomfortable to be here. Like with the with the old guy coming up and being like, "I like Tiger Woods," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh Jesus," and you're like, uh. That would be like me as the metal guy being like, "Have you seen Living Color? I really dig Living Color." Like, what the fuck are you doing? I like Seven Dust a lot. What the fuck are you doing? Um, but it just keeps like every
I
person.
love Seven Dust.
Yes, I've actually met Legend, the lead singer, really cool guy. Every single person that he meets is like that, where it's
Yeah.
just like some version of like, "I like Tiger Woods." Is that enough red flags? Like I know Jordan Peele. I've heard him talk about this, and Jordan Peele's brilliant. I am certainly not dissecting Jordan Peele's script. But is there enough red flags in that moment where you've been like, "We gotta go, like we just gotta go"?
Well, I mean, he kind of almost does. That's when he takes a break and goes upstairs. But really, and this is so important to the character. This is why this fucking movie's so brilliant. Damon makes my head break. He's showing you what black folks go through all the damn time. If you're going to red flag this, you better just red flag all white people and never speak to them because it's an experience you have on a day-to-day basis. That's why when they were going to leave from wherever they live to go visit the parents, he was like, "Do they know I'm black? Because I know what's coming. Even if they do know I'm black, I still know what's coming." And so his patience and him not going these, of course he sees red flags, but he sees them every damn day.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
he just goes, "Ah, shit. Yeah, like this is a red flag if I date anyone outside my race. This is always going to be that." So he's still not clicking into the problem because it's what black folks go through. Of course, in your instance, you'd be like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here," because you don't experience that on a very
I'm
regular basis.
I'm also a very confrontational person. Like I went to just
Oh, I
to,
like to fight a lot. Yeah.
my own personal story. Like we had one of my girlfriend's cousins came to visit us one time, and we got into a conversation about religion, which is just not. It's just not. Don't do that. Um, and I went off. And
Yeah.
by the end of the conversation, like it was just so uncomfortable because I've outwardly said on this show, I'm not trying to offend anybody. You are certainly allowed to believe whatever you want to believe, but I'm pretty hardcore atheist. And she was trying to debate me. And I'm like, "You're not gonna win this debate." But I don't stop. Like I don't quit. And like
Yeah, I'm the same way.
there was one point where like you could tell like my girlfriend's getting pretty uncomfortable. Like you're making her feel dumb right now. And I was like, "I'm not trying to make her feel dumb, but I'm not saying, but it also goes into personality beyond race. I guess is what I'm getting at because Chris is trying his best to just like be there for Rose and not make a scene.
Yeah, a black person wouldn't do that. Like a
And
black person
I'm
wouldn't
saying,
go, "I'm hardcore atheist, so I'm going to get into a big debate with my
yeah,
girlfriend's white family." Like a black person's not going to do that. They go, "I don't have the energy and capacity because I deal with micro shit every single day. So like they wouldn't bother with it. And that's again the genius of Daniel Kaluuya is the way he plays it. The exhaustion. He's so cool, calm, and collected. As they talk to him, he's just like I like okay, okay. Yeah, yes, Tiger Woods. Yes, of course. Yes, of course, Tiger Woods. And then he has to go up and take that break. But that's he could have played it a lot of ways. He played it the way he knows how to play it because Daniel Kaluuya is a black man who's has these experiences in his life, and he goes, "Let me show broader audiences what we go through and how we react to it because of because the system that we're put in it is disadvantageous to us. I can't get in a fight with 300 white people. It's not going to work out very well for me. It just won't."
And that's where I get like that, and so I totally agree. That's where I was like raising the other point of like just the red flag and just like we're getting the fuck out of here, like fuck all
yes,
this. Like,
yeah, and to that I think like there's a lot of factors, and they actually do a really good job of building the character of Chris for why there's a lot of reasons why he won't leave. Not just that one. That's the cultural one. Then there's like the next stage down, which is deeper inside of him, which is he's alone in the world. He has his buddy Rod, right?
Rod, yeah.
Yeah, it is Rod. Okay. Rod or Rob. Rod, he has Rod, but he has no family. He's an only child. His mother's gone, and he blames himself for that. And so really all he has is Rod and his girlfriend. That's his whole life. That's everything. So he doesn't want to blow that up. He doesn't want to leave in the middle of this big function that's super important. He doesn't want to do any of that. So he just goes up and he takes a break. He's like, I'll just take a break. But then he sees Dre and he's like, wait a minute, I think I know that guy. I think I know that guy. He goes down, they have their weird interaction where and Lakeith with the hand grab off the fist bump. 100% like the way he grabbed it was old man grabbing it.
Yeah.
Like that's what an old man does. Like oh I didn't know you were gonna do that. Like I was like damn, it's like just the little details, like the tiniest details of this movie work so well. But then he's getting super suspicious of Dre or Logan is how he introduces himself. So he's suspicious of Logan, and then he's like, I'm gonna take a little picture because I'm pretty sure Rod knows this guy. Like I'm gonna check with Rod because I swear we know this guy. He takes the photo. The flash happens. Now remember, the scene before this was the Sunken Place. He flashes. In that moment, Logan snaps to, you see it. You see something change in his eyes. And he's all of a sudden he looks at Chris like he's never seen him before. Like they didn't just have 5 words a minute ago. And he looks at him with terror. He just screams, get out, get out. That's the red flag, Damon. That's the fucking run. That's the run moment because Dre like snapped to and saw Chris standing across from him. He's like, oh shit, they're going to do to you what they did to me. Run as fast as you can. Get out of here. I love that scene. Like, boy, that scene, I don't think that scene gets enough credit. And of course they got Lakeith, and Lakeith is like an incredible actor. And I was just like, damn, that was the moment. And of course, it's like a big hubbub, and they try to smooth it over.
And to their credit, like when I say the red flags before that, there are plenty where I would just be like, all right, yeah, let me just go ahead and I'm gonna go use the bathroom. I jump in the car and fucking leave, which he can't because he doesn't have a driver's license and he's not the one that drove. But this is just my brain thinking of like I would just get the fuck out of there. The other thing they do really well is when he has that experience with Logan, and he has that experience with Dean and everyone else in the party, and then he goes over and talks to Rose, and she's like, you're not leaving me, are you? More or less. And he's like, no, I'm not going to leave you. She has a really good way of manipulating him, of like bringing him back down to earth and saying that like, you're here for me, not for them. Don't worry about them. It's you and me. It's us against the world, that kind of mentality. Yeah. And he's just like, all right, I love you. I'm not going anywhere. And that speaks back to what you talk about with his mother when he feels guilty. He feels incredibly guilty. Even though he had no control over the hit and run his mom got into, he's been carrying around that guilt for years. So when she expresses to him, you're not leaving me, are you? That kicks in that kid guilt of his mom. And so he's just like, no, I'm not going to leave you. And I don't want to just plot out the entire movie here, but I want to get to the central, the ending of what all happens here. Long story short, Chris finds out that Rose has been bringing back a lot of men to her house, and he is certainly not, because she mentions that he's the first black guy she's dated. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he goes in her closet and he finds a box full of photos of her and a slew of black men. And
including in those photos, Dre is in those photos, Walter is in those photos, and Georgina's in those
Yeah.
photos.
Yeah, and they're
You're
partying and like hanging out. Yeah.
partying, hanging out. Her and Georgina are very cozy. They're looking very lovely together. She's targeting black folks. And he's
like,
there's the red flag I was looking for.
yeah, and he runs out, and they go down. And she's like, I'm trying to find the keys. I'm trying to find the keys. He's like, find the keys. And things are ratcheting up. Everyone's surrounding him. Jeremy Dean, everyone's getting around him. And he goes and he's like, where are the fucking keys, Rose? And she's like, I can't give you the keys. And then clink of the glass, and boom, back down the sunken place. And when he wakes up, he's in this Barca lounger down in the basement. And that's where we get the video of Mr. Wilhelm from Seinfeld, which, by the way, I don't care if he plays the other Armitage. He's always Mr. Wilhelm from Seinfeld to me.
Jim Hudson, by the way, is the character.
Yeah, he explains that basically this is a process of transferring consciousness from one person to another. And for whatever reason, it just works better when it's a black person. And so they've come to his son, played by Bradley Whitford, has perfected this surgery. And so that's what he's doing. And he's already freaked out.
It's not his son. Walter is Bradley Whitford's dad.
Yeah, no, he says my son perfected it. He says Bradley Whitford perfected the surgery. He's the one, his son, Bradley Whitford, perfected.
Oh, you're talking about the video. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about his discussion with Jim. That's different.
No, I'm talking about the dad, Mr. the grandpa, Armitage. Which also he has an uncomfortable situation where he talks about Jesse Owens and all that. That's going back in time. Anyways, when he's sitting in the chair and we meet Mr. Wilhelm from Seinfeld, and he says, my son perfected the surgery, transfer consciousness, and then they flip over and you meet Jim Hudson, the gallery owner, and he's got his head shaved, and he's just like, I could give a shit what color you are. I'm after your eyes. I want your eyes. Like, I need to see, and sorry, buddy. Like, and he tells him, like, you're going to be in that sunken place, and you're going to see and kind of know what's going on, but you're never going to be in control, and, you'll still be there, but not really. And you're just like, holy fucking nightmare, Batman. Like, Jesus Christ, this sounds like the fucking worst thing ever. And at that point, Chris has figured out that the clinking of the glass makes him go into the sunken place. She did it when he put him down in the chair. They do it again at the end of the one video. And then when he wakes up again and he has that conversation with Jim. And so upstairs, we see Bradley Whitford preparing the surgery room where he has Jim Hudson there, and he takes off his skull, and he's getting ready to perform the procedure. Jeremy goes downstairs to get Chris, unstraps him, takes him out, and then bam, hits him over the head with a croquet ball, I guess is what it is. And
bocce ball or some shit.
Croquet ball, whatever. And he knocks him out, and he realized he took cotton from the beat up chair and put it in his ear so he couldn't hear the clink of the glass, which is one of my favorite parts of the movie. He figured it out. He's like, I know what you're going to do to me. You're not going to do it to me. So when they do it in the video again, he fakes like he's knocked out, but he's not actually knocked out. Takes out Jeremy, takes the fucking deer off the wall, kills Dean, and then at that point it's just mayhem pretty much. Like getting in the house is on fire. When he meets Rose's mom again, she goes for the glass, he smacks it away. She stabs him with the letter opener in the hand. And he's not even fucking flinching. He just takes and kills her or throws her away. And long story short, he gets out to the car, and they have this. This is another moment where I'm just like, dude, just go, because he tries to save Georgina, but it's not Georgina.
But this is super important. I'm so glad you brought this part up, because it's one of those moments where any typical horror movie, I would be so frustrated. I go, why did you go back for Georgina? It's the grandma in Georgina. And I go, well, okay, he's trying to save the woman who was Georgina. Yeah. That's what he's trying to say. But it goes deeper than that. Ultimately, the reason he was targeted in the first place by Rose and their family is because he had nobody. And then on top of that, he has this immense guilt for leaving what he perceives as leaving his mom to die. And Rose can play on that and the mom plays on it very easily. The mom plays on that guilt. He was going to leave Georgina to die, and he could not do it. That was him going back to say, I in this moment, there's a woman in there trapped in in that body. In she's still in there. We can find a way to get her out. I can save her. I didn't save my mom. I can save her. So it was
He
an
has a
important character turn for him that if it didn't happen, ultimately it wouldn't work.
Well, he has that crisis of conscience where he's driving away and he sees Georgina and he's like, "Fuck!" He's
Yeah.
like, and he,
But because he knows that deep, because he's been there, he's been to the sunken place. He's going, the woman inside Georgina is still in there, trapped in there.
yeah,
We could find a way to get her out. I have to go back and get her. I have to. I have to. That didn't work out. She gets in the car. Georgina fucking rips at him. They get into a huge car accident and she ends up dying. And then you've got Rose coming at him with the rifle, trying to kill him and all that stuff. They have their showdown. He has a showdown with Walter, like all this, like it's
it
so dramatic.
flashes the camera, wakes Walter up, and he says, "Let me do it." And he takes the gun from Rose. She's like, "Grandpa." I love that scene when Rose
Yeah,
is
it's a
like,
great
"Oh,
scene.
Grandpa," and you're like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
And so when he snaps the camera, and Walter wakes up, and he's actually the guy, and he's like, "Give me the gun, I'll do it." And he takes the gun, he turns on Rose, and shoots her, and then that's when Rod shows up and kind of saves the day, and that's pretty much the end of our film. But yeah, it's that last like 30 minutes is so harrowing when you think that like Chris is screwed, and then you realize he's got the cotton in his ears, which is such a nice. I love that little moment because you see him. You always talk about if you see it, if you show us, use it. And you see him scratching at the leather chair, and you see that cotton coming out of the chair, and then you realize he puts it in his ears, and that's how he stops from hearing the clink of the glass to put him back in the sunken place. But that whole final like 30 minutes is just like a nonstop ride of just tension and like exhilaration. It's just such a crazy final like 30 minutes of that movie.
And you're sitting there as an audience member going, get out, get out, get out. Like literally, like he starts low in the house. He's down in the basement area where they actually take the do the surgeries and stuff. And he's literally got to ascend and get out of the house and get out of the situation. And he's running the gauntlet the entire time. Every single person he comes up to, the mom is probably the easiest kill of all, but it also made sense because it's like he took her one weapon away. She couldn't hypnotize him anymore. So now it's just a matter of just like, now I can just take you out. Um, and then there's that the moment Rose doesn't die from the gunshot wound, and so she's kind of still alive, and then he's like choking the life out of her because she's not going to stop. She's now she has leverage to later on prosecute him and all that stuff, and he knows that, and she's pure evil. So he starts choking the life out of her, and and then she expires, and the lights come on, and I'm talking siren lights, and you're like, oh shit! I remember in the theater going, fuck.
I had 1000% flashbacks to Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure there is a big part of Jordan Peele who said, I want to bring us to that moment, but I want to change something. But did you know, Damon, and you probably know this, that there was another ending in place? So what happens? The siren lights come up. Everybody's thinking, fuck, he almost got out, and now here are the cops, and there's a slew of dead white people, and he's the only person surviving. The house is burning down. There's no evidence. He's screwed. The door opens. It's Rod. Rod knew all along, and there's a whole subplot with Rod that we didn't get into, but Rod knew all along that something was shady, that he shouldn't have been going to this white girl's house. Like he was like, I'm sure there's something wrong here. And he was right, but it's Rod that saves the day. But did you know, Damon, that was not the original ending and they shot the original ending?
I do know that, and I did look it up before this movie, but please explain.
In the original ending, the sirens come out and the door swings open and it's cops. And he just knows. He's like, he puts his hand behind his head. They cuff him. And we cut to, I believe, 6 months later. And Rod is going into a prison. And he sits down at one of the, I forget what they're called, like the booths where you can talk to prisoners. And sure enough, Chris sits down. He's in the orange jumpsuit. And he's like, And Rod's like, I'm telling you, I can find the evidence, I can find the connections. I got the photo of Dre. Like I'm telling you, I can make all these connections. And he's just going, dude, stop. He goes, you and I both know the justice system's got me locked. They're gonna keep me here because they know they know I killed some of those people because I did. They don't care why because there's no evidence to show why I was in self-defense. So I'm done. Thank you for being my friend, but we both know I'm done. I'm done for. And I at least stopped this thing from happening and maybe we can stop other people from doing it. And he walks off and that's the end. That was what Jordan Peele wanted to end with. Do you know why he didn't go with that ending and they shot a separate ending?
Was it audience reaction? Is that what it was? I can't remember. It was one of the early screenings, right?
Early screenings tested that very poorly. Not that it wasn't like honest, because it's a way more honest ending than what we got. But he wanted to end on a lighter note ultimately. And the ultimately is Rod coming in there, and Rod is so fucking funny. And Rod's like, I told you this shit was going on, da da da. And Rod saves the day by taking him out of there. And you know what's so important to this movie? No stone unturned. We talk about plot holes all the time on this show. But way back when they got into that accident and hit that deer, and she's vehemently defending him against the police officer, he doesn't need to show you his ID. He does not need to show you his ID. He was not driving. Let it go. Now, on the surface, you're like, okay, it's a white person showing that they can talk back to cops and be like, just walk away because I'm saying so. Even though like this guy's bigger and stronger than me, like I get to tell you to your face to fuck off. But why did she do that, Damon? If the cop had evidence that he was there, that would be bad for them. So she plays defense. And so the only thing that could have happened, the reason that Chris gets away with it is there's no evidence he was ever there. Yeah. Everything that happened, and the final bit of evidence really is that Walter shot Rose. That's the only thing that you'll see on the road is the police will drive up to that house. They'll see Walter with a self-inflicted gunshot wound and Rose dead on the ground, shot. And then the house is in flames and basically burnt to a crisp. There's no other evidence. So they're like, well, the what's most likely here, most obvious here is that Walter went rogue on the people that he worked for, killed them all and burned the house down. That's basically what we got. And there's no evidence that Chris was ever there. He gets away clean, and it made the audience feel good about the situation.
The reality is, it's a better ending. And I say that because, and this is a fucking sad, tragic reality, the other version is what I would expect.
Sure. That's what we all know is the truth, honestly.
Cop shows up, either arrests or just, I mean, let's be honest, there's a world where he just shoots Chris, and that's the end of it. And and it's not because it's a down ending, it's because we expect that ending.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I saw this movie in the theater and the lights came on, I was like, I was like, really? I got pissed for like 2 seconds till you realize who it is. Because I was like, come on. Like, this is it felt so predictable. Now it's a sad reality that's predictable, but that's what so when it ended up being Rod and TSA, and I was like, thank God, I'm so happy. Because we always talk about this on the podcast when you subvert expectations. Our shared favorite ending of all time is The Mist.
Great ending.
Why does that work? Because you don't see it coming. I'm not going to get into the ending and ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but that is one of the greatest endings in film history, not just horror film history. If that movie, when that happens, it is like literally getting stomped in the balls or kicked in the stomach or whatever version of that you want to do. It is jaw on the floor. You do not see that coming in any way, shape, or form. And if this movie ended with the cops showing up and arresting Chris or whatever, I saw that coming. Yeah. And yes, it would make me feel angry, and yes, it would make me feel a little dissatisfied. That's how he ended it, because I knew that. The fact that it's Rod And what you just talked about, that they were doing such a job of hiding that Chris was ever there because they need to disappear him so he can
Yes.
become Jim, whatever the fuck the gallery owner guy is. They have no evidence he was ever there. So he actually gets away with it. That is a 100% a better ending. Because I
It
didn't
is.
see that coming. Because when Rod pops out, I'm like, oh, I didn't see this coming. This is not the ending I expected. It's the better ending. And in this case, the audience was right.
Yeah, I mean, I think and Jordan, like, obviously very smart filmmaker and everything, and I watched the ending that he actually shot, and it's still brilliant, it's still good, and it ends on that heavy note. And you know me, I love dour endings, but in this instance, where like injustice is the theme, the entire movie, it sucks to just go, yeah, and your face in the dirt on top of that.
Yeah.
Like, we know injustice is the theme of the entire movie. It's nice to see the subversion of that expectation, which is like, well, then what's supposed to happen at the end is he gets caught by the police and he gets blamed for everything.
Well, I
So the
remember
subversion of the expectation is that he gets away clean.
there was a totally I remember this uproar. This is a totally different kind of film, but I know you remember this when it was announced that Quentin Tarantino was doing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and they said it was going to be about the Manson family, and he was going to cast people to play. Why am I forgetting her name? Sharon.
Sharon Tate. Yeah.
Sharon Tate. Thank you. Sharon Tate and all that. They're like, oh, we don't want to rehash this, and everyone outraged, and like we've seen this 1,000 times. It's cruel to do this to us again, and I get it. I've always said, like, I've never understood the fetishization of serial killers. I've always thought that was really weird and creepy. People walking around with Manson t-shirts on. I've always found that really weird. Um, but everyone got really pissed off, and Quentin's just like, calm down, watch the movie. And that's why it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's his fantasy, much like Inglourious Bastards. Like, if you watch Inglourious Bastards, and I'm gonna just spoil the movie. It's whatever. It's 30 years old at this point. They kill Hitler. It's not real. I mean, I know we all
Yeah.
know Hitler died, and we Germany lost in World War II, but it was just such a satisfying moment to see the Jewish soldiers fucking machine gunning Adolf Hitler to death. And same thing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Not only that, like Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth fuck up the entire Manson family, and Sharon Tate's still alive at the end. Now, I know you could say that might be cruel to the family to think like now she's alive, but that's him basically saying, I'm going to tell my version of the story where the Manson family doesn't get away with it, where they don't inflict this horrifically cruel act of violence on a pregnant woman and her friends. And there's something, in my opinion, kind of beautiful about that because we know what really happened, and there's a million film versions of that out there. Quentin's like, I'm going to make my fantasy. My fantasy is fuck the Manson family. They were a bunch of fucking kooky whackballs, and I'm going to have my superhero Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton save them. And so at the ending, it's Rick going up and meeting with Sharon Tate, and they're just hanging out. And you're like, wow, it's fantasy, but movies are fantasy. And so Jordan Peele coming to the decision, and I did a research that ending, and I was like, I get it. But if this was real life, that's the Manson family. That's that is just the ending of World War II. That's just what we know. A cop shows up and the black man gets arrested because he's surrounded by a bunch of dead white people. We know that's the ending. But the fact that Jordan Peele's like, hold on, and the audience got it, savvy enough, they're like, no. After everything, that's his ending?
Yeah.
And it ends up being the Rod ending, which is he shows up and saves his guy. Much better. I'm not even saying, I'm with you. You know me. I like a down ending. We've said this on the podcast that we're fucking depressing bastards. We like down endings. But this movie would it have still been great? Yes. But would I have been left with a bad taste in my mouth if that was the ending? 100%. This is the better ending.
Yeah, it is. It gives you a little bit of hope on the back end, right? Because
Yeah.
the injustices that are, and I'm just talking about the justice system now as a total blanket statement, and it can affect people of all different types. Like, you just want at some point, it's almost insurmountable to beat it, to beat how absolutely endemic the problems are with the justice system. So we know what's normally going to happen. So we're getting a little bit of fantasy here. We're getting to see Hitler riddled with machine gun fire because we never got it. We never got the chance to see it. We never got the chance to surmount that. So giving us the chance to surmount an unjust system felt good finally. Because you just go, because you know the justice system doesn't work great for people. It really, for all types of people, it really doesn't work very good. And so to see it surmounted like that, I was like, thank goodness. I'm so glad. And I love, and boy, in the theater, it played very well. It played, I remember that audience just cheering, like, yes, thank God it's Rod that came to save the day.
Yeah. And that's what I said. When I first saw this movie, my immediate reaction was, "This is Night of the Living Dead. They're
Yeah.
gonna shoot. They're gonna kill Chris."
Yeah.
And I remember getting like angry in that, like, and it was a
Oh,
2 second
everybody
period.
was, yes.
But I was just like, no, come on. And then when it was Rod, I was like, it was like the greatest like roller coaster of emotion in about like 4 seconds, because I was like, the lights pop on, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then when
Yeah.
it's Rod, I'm like, yeah, Rod, because Rod is this is this goes to the brilliance, and we're going to talk. We're getting into categories in just 1 second. This goes into the brilliance of when you have a comedic writer working in horror.
Yeah.
Now, yes, I critique our old friend David Gordon Green all the time, but I will not. But I will not critique his friend Danny McBride, who is a big, big horror fan, and also, I mean, one in my opinion, maybe the best comedic actor working in Hollywood today, along with a couple other people. I don't want to just pigeonhole just Danny McBride, but Danny McBride is a funny dude, writing and acting. Like, this dude, gets it. Like, everything he writes cracks me up. Eastbound and Down, the Righteous Gemstones. He's just brilliant. But he's also a massive, massive horror fan. And there is something so easy to correlate between comedy and horror. And Jordan Peele gets it because it's all about timing. Jordan Peele gets it, and Danny McBride gets it. And that injection of just enough comedy to give you a little levity in what is a incredibly serious movie. I mean, if you take out Rod and you just have Get Out, it's still a good movie without Rod. But it is just like, it's one of those movies like, if this, think about this, Patrick. There's a version of this where you just take Rod out, all the Rod scenes, and it's just, Chris gets worse, worse, worse. Maybe he saves himself, but then the end is the cop shows up and arrests him or kills him. That movie you would literally walk out of the theater feeling gut punched, right? But
Yeah.
Rod injects just enough humor, just enough hilarity. That scene with the cops when they laugh at him, and you're just like, it adds just enough humor to where it elevates and gives you a little levity in what is an incredibly serious movie, right? And I feel like you need that in a movie like this, because like, I've said this before. We were talking about this on movies that make us cry during our live stream podcast, and I said The Green Mile is a great movie, but it's so fucking sad that I'll never watch it again. Like, there's no levity in that movie at all. Like, there's never a moment where, like, this movie makes me feel good. No, this movie makes me feel terrible. And I saw it once, and I'll tell you, it's a great movie, but I never want to watch it again because it made me feel horrible. And you could make that Get Out. But man, would you leave the theater feeling like shit?
Yeah, especially with that ending, because I will say that even aside from Rod, there's still plenty of like kind of clever satire and back and forth between Chris and everybody he interacts with. So there is a little bit of it there. But really, Rod's, and we'll get into Rod in a little bit here, but Rod serves a few functions, but there's obviously a lot of comedy that comes from that as well. But the movie is a satire still. It's still a satire on race relations, and it's funny and biting in all of those interactions. You're still laughing when the guy's like, "Hey, you like Tiger Woods, huh?" And everybody laughs because they're like, "Oh, geez, I know a guy like that. I know exactly the guy that you're talking about." So it's a funny movie even without Rod, but Rod is so important to not only just the device that gets Chris out of the problem, and it would make sense that Chris would have a very trusted black friend no matter what. But also he's funny, also he uses his smarts to help free to help get Chris out of this situation.
Yeah. Should we get into some categories, Patrick?
Let's do it, Damon.
let's talk. Let's kick things off as we do each and every week here on the show with best performance. And I got to be honest, I'm just going to say this up front. I know I do say this from time to time, but this is right there when we talk about like Jaws being a perfect movie. Get Out's a perfect movie.
Oh yeah.
This, this is pretty much a flawless movie. So there are all good performances. That's what I'm getting at. Like these are all good performances.
Hmm.
But who gets your best performance for Get Out?
For me, it's an open and shut case. This is Daniel Kaluuya's. This is his show. This is his movie. My God, what a performance! That was the reason I kind of knew about Daniel Kaluuya because of this movie and what he could do. Stage trained in England. He's a stage trained actor. Really brought another level of acting acumen to this role, and I think Jordan was smart enough to see that. He's like, man, this guy can do things on a deeper level. You need it to go behind the eyes, and Daniel Kaluuya knows how to do that. And we've praised him left, right, and center here, so I'm not going to belabor it. This is the guy.
I mean, the honest answer is Daniel Kaluuya. That's the answer. But I gotta go. I want to give flowers to somebody else in this movie just because it's. I mean, that's the answer. That is the answer. I do want to say I love Bradley Whitford. I have always loved Bradley Whitford. I've loved him ever since seeing him star in Revenge of the Nerds 2.
Yep.
Roger Latimer, baby. He was the bad guy in Revenge of the Nerds too, but he was also, of course, brilliant in the West Wing. He just did Handmaid's Tale. He's
Yeah.
incredible. I like Bradley Whitford a lot, but I had to give my best performance to Allison Williams in this movie because she really is the key, the linchpin to keeping Chris there. Because for every time that he's ready to jump and run and bolt, she finds a reason to keep him there. And usually she uses that abandonment issue and the you're leaving me issue of keeping him around. But what really clinched it for me this time watching it, I actually watched it twice in the last 2 days. I watched it once on purpose the other time it was just on. I was like, well, fuck it, I'm going to watch it again. Um, is that scene when Rod calls to find Chris and she answers Chris's phone. And she's like, Chris? And he's like, it's Rod. And she's giving a performance. She's like, oh my God, he's not there with you. And then when that camera goes on Rose and she looks stoic. And she's just like, oh my God. I mean, she's like, oh my God, I'm so scared. But like her face is just like Patrick Bateman, American Psycho, like
Yeah.
just cold and detached. But she's giving the answers that Rod, and then Rod's like, can you hold on 1 second? He mutes and he's like, I'm gonna record this bitch. She's crazy. And and she gets back on and he's like, I know what this is really about, Rod. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I know what this is really about. I see you looking at me. And she's like, what are you talking about? Chris, my best friend. He's like, I know you think about me. You think about fucking me. And like the way she says that, she switches because she knows what he's doing. And she's trying to basically, indict him as much as anything. And he's like, whoa, what the fuck? And that look on her face and her fucking parents just looming in the background watching her say this when she's like, I know you've always thought about fucking me, Rod. And it's so cold and detached and creepy of how well she keeps that just stone cold face and says all these things to him. It's just, oh God, it's chilling. It's really chilling. And there's a great, even later in the movie when the house is on fire and he's falling around her, she's sitting there eating Fruit Loops and drinking milk, and she's just like looking for her next victim. Like she's just so fucking cold and detached, and she has that one line when they're pulling Chris away, and she's like, "You were one of my favorites." I'm like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
she's so good in this movie."
I love that you brought up the cereal scene because there's a lot of theories around why she's doing that, right? And one of them, I watched a video with Jordan Peele was addressing some of the questions and theories people had. Some people thought the theory was is that color and white don't mix, and that's why she eats her cereal and then drinks the milk out of a glass. And he goes, clever, but you smoke a lot of weed, clearly. He goes, I really wanted to show that she was an unsettling character, that she was doing something so unsettling. That's how I always perceived it. I go,
That's
oh,
me too.
she's so far gone that she sits there and eats her cereal and her milk in that way, and it's so like calculating and robotic. Very Patrick Bateman, actually. Very Patrick Bateman. Very strange. And then early in the movie, there was something I picked up on that I hadn't picked up on previous watchings. Was when they're packing and getting everything ready to go, how she's checklisting him She's going, do you have your bag? Do you have your thing? Do you have your key? Like she's kind of mothering him a little bit. And it seems innocuous on the surface when you don't know anything that's coming. But I was like, look at her, like she's subtly, very subtly controlling him. And so, like, it gives a little glimpse into this part of the great writing. It just gives a little bit of a glimpse into what their relationship is like and why Chris is in this web because he can be manipulated. And she's manipulating him in a very gentle way that seems innocuous, like, oh, you're just being like a worrywart, girlfriend who's a little anal retentive. No, no, no. It's part of the plan. It's part of how she grooms him. It's part of how she's keeping him in her coffer. So she really does give a great performance. I mean, Allison Williams, I've seen her in a lot of things, but in this movie, she's downright chilling.
And and I think she's the perfect counter to all the weird behavior at that party. You know, when because she warns him ahead of time. My dad's going to tell you he loves Obama. He wishes he could have voted for a
Yeah.
third time. Like she gets it. And then like when they have that weird interaction, like she pulls him away, and then when they're sitting there talking, she's like, "You're not going to leave me, right?" Like she is the balancing act to all these weird interactions with everyone else. Because just like with that cop at the beginning when they hit the deer, and he's like, "I need to see your ID," and she's like, "You don't need to see his ID." She sticks up for him, and so like his guard is down around her
Yeah. He
because
sees her as
they're
somebody who
together.
protects him.
Yeah, and she cares. Like she genuinely, in his eyes, she genuinely cares about him. So his guard comes down, so he doesn't see it coming. You know, it's like it's when you see a crime of passion, when you hear about a husband killing a wife or a wife killing a husband or whatever. These are the people that are supposed to love you the most in the world. You're not supposed to see them coming at you to hurt you, and that's what Allison Williams' performance does as Rose. Is he doesn't see her coming until that moment when she's like, I can't hand you the keys. And you're like, oh, fuck.
God damn it.
God damn it. Patrick, let's move on to our next category, which is MVP. We have a shared MVP. I'm not even going to pretend otherwise. Go ahead and talk about the MVP, and then I'll jump in if I have any extra thoughts on this one.
Any other time it would have gone to Jordan Peele, but on this last rewatch, I really had to give it to Lil Rel Howery's performance as Rod. Rod is the literally Damon. He is literally the most valuable player in this movie. Without his instinct for something being off about Rose, none of the like Chris would have been done for. Like 100%, he would have been hemmed up. Like that would have been the end of it. But Rod was sure something was up. And then when he gets the text and he sees the picture of Dre and he's like, shit, that's Dre. Like he was dating so and so, blah 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 blah. Like he goes into action and he has his own B story. The only other story that's going on in the movie. This B story of him trying to convince people, the police, himself, Chris, that something is wrong here, and those instincts pay off. And that is literally what an MVP performance is all about.
So everyone knows when we do these categories of MVP, I always tend to lean on the writer or the director because when I give a positive review, it's hard not to. And because I'm a writer, I always appreciate the writing or the directing in a movie. You're a director yourself. But I had to go with Rod for exactly what you talked about. And the other thing I'll say about this is we all need a Rod. We all need a
Yes.
Rod. You better if you're out there in the world, and I know this is this. I'm not talking about this situation. I'm just saying in general, we should all have a Rod looking out for us because Rod's a little off. Rod's a little like conspiracy theorist. He's not. He goes a little too far in some of his things, and like there's a reason why. There's a reason why Chris hangs up on him a couple of times. He's like, "All right, dude, I get it." Click. Like he's like, "All right, calm down." But we all need a Rod. We all need a guy who would actually come looking for us. We need a guy like it reminds me what clicked with me in my head in this movie, and I was like, "Oh, great way to use this again." Was watching Rod figure out that something was wrong with Rose and something was wrong with Chris reminded me so much of the movie Fresh when Daisy Edgar Jones is very much like a bit of a loner. She's had bad relationships and she goes off for a weekend with her new boyfriend, Sebastian Stan. And it's her best friend back in the city who's like, there's something weird that this guy has no social media presence. I can't find any information about him. And if not for her, Daisy Edgar Jones' character would have been dead. And I was like, when I watched Get Out again this time, I was like, oh my God, like they lifted that. And that's movies, by the way. I'm not saying they
Oh
ripped it
yeah.
off and like that's never been done before. But I was like, oh my God, that was the same kind of thing that happened in Fresh, which I've said on this show is one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. We all need a rod. So, Patrick, my plea to you is if I ever go missing, I'm hoping you'll be my rod. I'm hoping you would have a bit of paranoia. Like, hey, Dave and I were going to record the podcast on Thursday night. He just didn't show up. What the fuck's going on? I'm hoping you would be my rod, Patrick.
I know all your moves at this point, Damon. So I'd be like, nope. At 1:30 a.m., he always posts an Ice Nine Kills thing on his Instagram stories, and that didn't happen tonight. And I checked in with his girlfriend, and she said this and she said that. Like I'd be all over it, Damon. No one's getting past me.
We all need a rod. So I'm just saying, like when I watched it, I was like, man, we all need a rod. That was the biggest takeaway of his character. It's like we all need a guy like that in our lives.
Yeah, please be my rod.
Yes, to that point, and by the way, I would also be a very rod to you as well. Like anytime you're traveling, I keep an extra sight on your Instagram when you're posting. I'm like, all right, if he doesn't post for like a day and he's in a foreign country, there's some hostile shit going down. Like I gotta be careful because you travel way more than I do. So I'm like, all right, you're in Germany, you're in London. All right, better be posting from London, or I'm gonna fucking have to get on a plane. So, I'll be calling some London motherfuckers. Patrick, let's talk about best line. And it's apropos to our MVP that both of our best lines come from the same character. Would you like to set up your best line first? Because I'm going in order. Yours actually comes before mine, so.
Yeah, so Chris and Rod are having a conversation, and Rod really gets into great detail. And this is early in the movie when Chris is still not buying that anything's off. When he gets into detail of why Chris should be very careful of Rose and her family.
I got hypnotized last night.
Nigga, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, to quit smoking, but it was Rose's mom's a psychiatrist, so.
Bruh, I don't care if the bitch is Ayana Van Zant, okay? She can't fix my motherfucking life. You ain't getting in my head.
I know she called me off guard, right? But it's cool because I'm cured. It worked.
Bro, how you not scared of this, man? Look, they could have made you do all types of stupid shit. They have you fucking barking like a dog, flying around like you're a fucking pigeon, looking ridiculous, okay? Or, I don't know if you know this, white people love making people sex slaves and shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not a kinky sex family, dog.
Look, Jeffrey Dahmer was eating the shit out of niggas' heads, okay? But that was after he fucked the heads. Do you think they saw that shit coming? Hell no. Okay? They was coming over there like, oh, I guess I'm gonna just suck a little dick, maybe jiggle some balls and shit. No, they didn't get a chance to jiggle shit because their head was off their fucking body. Yeah, they still sucked the dick, but without their heads. It was fucking weird, detached head shit. You know, that's Jeffrey Dahmer business.
And thanks for that image right there, man.
Hey, man, I ain't making this shit up. I saw on A&E, man. It's real life.
Yo, and it's the black people out here, too. It's like all of them Mr. Movement.
Because they probably hypnotized. Look, bruh, all I'm doing is connecting the dots. I'm taking what you presented to me, okay? I'm gonna tell you this. I think that mom is putting everybody in a trance and she fucking the shit out of them.
Thanks, Rod. Bye.
Thanks, all right, bye.
She's fucking the shit out of him. Oh my God.
But he's laying out the plan, basically. He's like, oh, they're probably hypnotized too. They're probably fucking the shit out. Okay, bye.
God, it's so good. It's just so good. That whole scene, I mean, they still suck a dick, but they do it with a detached head.
I'm gonna suck a little dick, suck a little balls.
Oh my God, that whole scene is just fucking hilarious. He's like, she's hypnotizing him and fucking the shit out of him. Oh so my good. God, so good. So mine is actually the very last lines of the movie after Rod shows up to save Chris and save the day, and he lets people know you do not fuck with the TSA.
I mean, I told you not to go in that house.
How you find me?
I'm TS motherfucking A. We handle shit. That's what we do. Consider this situation fucking handle. He gets so serious. We handle shit.
He's fucking Rambo now.
And your situation? considerate fucking handle.
That's fantastic. Oh my God, the audience just erupted during this. I'm the TS motherfucking A. We
Yeah.
fucking rolled. Oh my God, what a great. I don't know when this movie's gonna be re-released in theaters because now we're doing it all the time. I noticed that movies get re-released all the time now as little events. I can't wait to go see this in the theater again. Like it's such a great movie to watch with a group.
I hope, as this is one of those movies so iconic, I hope you can have the experience I had. I think I mentioned this when we reviewed Seven. When they re-released it in theaters, I got lucky enough to go to a theater where there were like four guys behind me, where like one guy had seen Seven and his three friends hadn't somehow,
Yes.
and they were reacting and like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "This is amazing," because I never saw Seven in the theater, and so I never got to experience like the what's in the box moment. I would love to go and see Get Out with people who have never seen it. I don't know if it's even possible. It's such a big movie, but like I hope that happens, because I remember I saw this in theater and I don't really remember the experience. Like I kind of remember, but I don't remember the reactions. You know what I mean? I certainly wasn't doing a podcast like now where I'm like constantly paying attention to it. So I would love to be in a theater where there's like maybe two people who haven't seen Get Out. I just love to see the reaction when he's like, TS motherfucking A.
Yeah, I really will. I will make a strong effort to go see this in the theater when they re-release it, because they will.
Yeah. Patrick, next category, best scare. Do you mind if I go first on this one?
Please.
Because my best scare isn't traditional. It's not the moment of like fear of like, jump scare or something like that. My moment, the one when I remember watching this in the theater and it felt like I got kicked right in the fucking stomach, was when Chris goes in the closet and finds the photos.
Mm-hmm.
When you scroll through and you see all her past boyfriends, and then you see the photo of Walter and the photo of Georgina, and that's when the realization sets in that you're fucked. Like you are fucked, like completely fucked. I remember just my heart sinking, because all the red flags that were raised. Rose, as we said earlier with best performance, my best performance for Allison Williams, is she does such a good job of being on his side. Seemingly being on his side. And so when you realize that she's in on it, you're like, oh, fuck. And I just remember my heart dropping in that moment of like, oh, she's orchestrated all this. She's as in it as anybody. It's not a traditional scare, but it's the moment in the movie where I was just like, oh, well, he's fucked. Like, this is really fucked. Because at that point, you still don't totally know what's going on. And when he sees those pictures, you're just like, oh, my. So it was like a gut punch of fear and my fear for Chris at that moment. So not traditional scare, but that is the moment in this movie where I was just, everything changed. Everything changed in that moment.
I think there's a lot of moments like that in this film where it's not a traditional scare. It's just this sort of wash of dread where you're like, oh no, that's not good. That's really not good. And that was a big one. That was probably the biggest one. We were just like, shit. She was in it all along. I kind of had a feeling she was in it all along.
I mean, like, I did too, but that realization, like,
yes,
know.
Like, he's got no recourse now. Like he is all alone there, and so that's a great one. I chose one that I guess counts as more traditional scare, but even then, like, it's more unsettling than it is anything else. And that is when he's out having his smoke break, and Walter starts running at him full speed, and then turns a right corner right before he gets to him. It's not that it was like scary, but it's like, why are you doing that? That's nothing about what you're doing right now makes sense, that you're in your full, groundskeeper clothing, running in a full sprint in the middle of the night towards me. That nothing about it made sense. And so it was just like uncanny. It was like, this shouldn't be happening. Like, nothing that I'm seeing should be happening at this moment. And even though it's innocuous and nothing is actually happening, it's just a guy running, but it was unsettling. So it didn't give me a jolt. It was just like, why? This is so unfamiliar to me that it's unsettling.
I would argue that is also probably the most traditional scary moment. Like, it is like when
Probably.
you see that dude just running at him and you're like, oh fuck, what's going on here? And he just turns. It's really unsettling, but it is also scary, like in almost a jump scare way, because you're like, "What the fuck
Almost
is going
kind of.
on
Yeah.
here?" Yeah, it's very scary. It's very good. That's another one where it's just like that one makes sense. Like that totally does. That's why I went a little off the cuff with the pictures because it's not a traditional scare, but
No, it's good.
that was the one where you're like, "Oh fuck." Patrick, next category, and I'm going to let you go first and explain this one. What are you getting put in the sunken place for? As we talked about earlier, the sunken place is now an iconic part of horror history. So explain this category and what you're getting put in the sunken place for.
Well, when I thought of this, Damon, I thought of like, these people are putting you in the sunken place because they want something that you have, some attribute that you have. And so, we often are self-deprecating on this show. So I was like, what are the attributes that Damon and Patrick have that other people might want? And my immediate thought was like, oh, people might want my AMC A list, like, to be able to get their 4 movies a month or 4 movies a week. So it's like, okay, do they want my AMC A list? Do they want my ability to speak in front of a large crowd? Because I've done that multiple times in my life. Like, man, it surely isn't my physical attributes. But then I did narrow down one thing, Damon, because I get this a lot, and that's my hair. I'm very blessed with this wonderful head of hair. I probably have the worst hair in my entire family, by the way. Everybody else has got much more interesting and character hair. My hair is luscious and dark and still like very vibrant at this age. I'm very fortunate, and I'm like, I think that's the only thing. They would literally just like take my scalp from me.
So, like, I know the idea is like a more of a physical attribute, but I can't really, I'm not really. You have cool tattoos, okay? I have cool tattoos. That's not really.
Yeah, anyone can get those.
And this is a weird one, but I guarantee this: if someone was going to off me and take something from me, this would probably be what they would do. My contact list.
Ah.
And in my business of mixed martial arts, like, I'm always terrified of someone stealing my contact list because I have, like, I'm not bragging.
Yeah, it's your job. You're a senior reporter.
I have Conor McGregor's phone number. I have Ronda Rousey's phone number. I have Dana White's phone number. That freaks me the fuck out if that ever got in someone's hands because I have all their I text quite often with Daniel Cormier and Michael Bisping, and guys who are well known, who are friends, guys I've been friends with for many, many years. That always freaks me out because I'm like, oh shit. Because people ask me like, hey, I wanted to speak to so and so. Can you pass their number? I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Like, you have to cultivate a relationship with somebody before you start passing on their fucking number. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So I know that sounds like a weird one, but in my business, like, that's always one of my greatest paranoias that someone would get my contact list and they'd be like, hey, I stole Damon's phone and I got Connor's number. I got this guy's number. I'm like, oh shit. So I know that sounds like a weird one, but I was thinking like, what would somebody just covet that I have? That contact list is a big one.
I mean, fair enough, Damon.
And also, I have actors in there too, like friends. I've been friends with Theo Rossi for a lot of years, Devin Sawa, guys I know. I have their personal info in there. God, it freaks me out if they would be like, I'm just going to go in there and just take a whole lot of information.
And certainly, we don't want anyone to do that. But Damon, it still kind of skirts the question. But I've got it for you. And here's why I would put Damon Martin in the sunken place. Like, I'm taking Damon Martin's body. You have, and because you're not giving yourself credit here, an incredible ability to write. I have to write, not because anyone's paying me or anything like that. I have to write because no one's just handing me their scripts to direct. I have to write things. I write like a snail writes, meaning snails don't write very well at all because they don't have hands or brains. And I don't have the brains to write the way a Damon Martin writes. Damon Martin writes, what do you say, on average about 10 articles a day?
Usually between 5 and 10, depending on the day.
That muscle memory would make me full Jim Hudson for you. I'll be like, what I need from you, Damon, is that brain of yours that can just crank out words. Because everybody, I can do your job. I can write about mixed martial arts. Good luck. See if you can keep Damon's pace. See if you can outwork him. I highly doubt you can. To have that gift for me to be like, yeah, I wrote, oh, I don't know, 7,000 words today. If I wrote 7,000 words today, I'd have 10 fucking scripts. Like it would be insane. Or more. Like honestly, your output, your ability to output writing is something I deeply covet. And if the day comes, I will steal it from you, Damon. I will take it from you and it will be mine.
Well, I appreciate that compliment. Yeah, I do write a lot. I will say that. That is my job, and I do write a shit ton. So I think I did it. I can't remember. There was a day like a couple of months ago where I had done stuff, and I think I added it up. I don't remember how it happened, but I had accidentally saved all my files to the front of my computer, to the desktop, instead of my actual document folder. And I was like, I'm curious. I did like 10 articles a day, and I think I'd written like 9,000 words in a day, which is a lot, by the way. That's
That's
not
a lot.
normally, right? I don't
No,
normally like
that's a lot.
9,000 words. But I was like, 9,000 words. Holy shit, did I write a lot today? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do write a lot. That is true. So I appreciate that compliment. That is very, very sweet of you to say. Yeah. So, and conversely with yours with the eye, like that, you have an eye that I don't have. You have a comprehension that I don't have. Like there's times when we review movies where you get something and I'm just like, fuck, I didn't get that. Fuck. So you have a comprehension in your brain that like I don't have sometimes, and like I do get jealous. I'm just like, God, he got that in a way that I don't get. Fuck. So there's my I'm gonna put you in the sunken place and steal your power of comprehension because I'm just like, fuck, I can't see what you see.
I
So
can't see why you like men.
well, let's not go there. But yeah, there are definitely moments where I'm like, fuck. You're very smart, Patrick. You're a very smart
Oh,
person.
I appreciate it. I think I do better with the visual than with the actual written. I think I'm better there.
Hey, together we make a pretty good combo, though.
I would love for you to start writing my scripts, Damon. Boy, am I being dead honest there right now. Please start writing my shit. This is not working out very well on my end.
I'll never forget one of the greatest skills I ever learned when I was in high school. We actually had a typing class, and I can type like 98 words a minute. I can type insanely fast. Like
Yeah.
I don't just type fast to type fast. Like I can type fast. Like I do it a lot during event nights. Like we just had a UFC event. I'm like typing articles throughout the night. Like during the event, you have to be really fast. That was one of the greatest gifts my high school ever gave me. It was actually doing like a full typing class. 'Cause I can type like 98 words a minute now.
Yeah. No,
And I know
no, that's true.
And I know a lot of people have like the one finger method still, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, "Do-do-do-do-do." So yeah, that was a good. Thank you for high school for teaching me that. Patrick, next category, and I kind of came up with this one because I was curious about this because we can sit here and dissect this movie, and I think we've done it as best we possibly can, but we said it over and over again. We are two white dudes. It's hard for us to totally comprehend a
Yeah.
movie that is so consequential for a black audience. So instead of would we survive this horror film, because clearly
It's not about
we are
us.
it's not about us. My question is, what happens to Chris next, the next day? Now, we are theorizing, and you brilliant, this is where you got this, you motherfucker, you brought it up, was the idea that they were doing this so Chris never existed. So there's no proof that Chris was ever in the Armitage house. And thankfully, the ending changed where it's Rod showing up to save the day and not the cops. So, what do we think happens to Chris?
I mean, I laid it out pretty clear that since the Armitages were trying to erase him from existence, no one ever knew he was there. And Rod got to him before anybody else did. And they get the fuck out of there, right? And even if you're a forensic guy and you come in there and you go, yeah, there were tire tracks right in front of these two dead bodies, makes total sense that those tire tracks turned around and went the other fucking way. Like, I'm not suspicious of who's in those tire tracks. This guy's Walter's fingerprints are all over the rifle. This is an open and shut case. Okay, like there's no big deal, and nobody at that party would dare to say, well, yeah, we saw so and so here. What were you doing here? Why were you here? Blah blah. They don't need anyone asking them questions. Especially the woman that's married to Dre. She's like, no, we don't say anything about that we were there. It's over. Good. I have my man. We can all move on with our lives. Believe me, they are happy to bury that idea so they don't take a hit at all. So I think him and Rod ride off into the sunset. And I'm guessing Chris packs up and moves towns almost immediately. He's like, I'm not going to be anywhere near here. He's a fantastic photographer, by the way. That if you don't know that, that's his profession. So he's going to be able to go to some place. I'd go to some place like New York City, where photography is appreciated, and go to New York City and ply my trade, and keep a low profile for quite some time.
So this is going to sound like a weird answer, but I mean, I would be incredibly cautious about who you date next. That would be number one of what you're going to do and what you do next. And here's the other one. So I was going to bring this up earlier when you brought up Rose's mom. I did psychology in college. I was several quarters away, but I was going for a double major, English literature and psychology, and I was thinking about like focusing on psychology. Ended up focusing on the English literature. I don't know if that was the right move or not, but I did a lot of studied psychology, and I've never been a believer in hypnotism, and I understand that like there are a lot of scientists out there who believe hypnotism is like pseudoscience. But I also understand hypnotism a lot is the power of suggestion. If you believe you're hypnotized, you are hypnotized, and you can use that as a tool to like suggest what you should be thinking. Like, you should stop smoking or you should whatever. So I'm not saying it's useless. I'm just saying like I personally have never believed in it. And I think that power of suggestion works very well. Like I don't think I could ever be hypnotized because I'm like, this is bullshit. So, like, it wouldn't work. That's why when you go to a magic show and someone's like, I hypnotize you, it's because you think you're going to be hypnotized. It's easier to suggest that to you. But that's the long way of saying, if I'm Chris, the first thing I'm doing is getting the fuck to a psychologist and having them take that power of the clinking glass away to where I get put in the sunken place. Could you imagine you go to Starbucks or something and someone's like clinking, you're like,
and then no one knows how to get you out of it.
Yeah, like what the fuck happened to Chris? He's just all fucked up over here. We're just having tea. So I would be rushing to a psychologist to get him to deprogram me from whatever Rose's mom did to me. That would be my first move.
That's actually a fantastic move. First thing is to get deprogrammed. You're so right. You're like, I can't explain, but the sound of a clinking glass will absolutely put me in a catatonic state. So I need you to undo that.
Yeah, that would be the first thing I would do. I'd be looking in the fucking yellow pages or on the internet to find the best hypnotist in fucking town. And I would be like, get me out of the sunken place forever.
And he's going to need a psychologist for more than just that. He just went through some shit.
Yeah, we're gonna put mom away for a while. We got a whole new bag of issues to deal with. To quote Wedding Crashers, one of my all-time favorite comedies. We're going to go home and see Dr. Finkelstein, tell him we can put mom away. We got a whole new bag of issues to deal with. Patrick, last category, is it scary? Come on now. I mean, come on.
Damon, the key element is there, and it's there from moment one, and that is dread. This and for a lot of the movie, it is a satire, right? So it's funny and it's biting and it's kind of up here a little bit, so it's a little brighter. But when the dread hits, man, does it hit. Just like you talked about when he finds the photos, that feeling that you're the pit of your stomach, where your throat sinks and you're like, oh God, no, no, no. And every moment from that point on, you are just like, Chris, get out, get out, get out. It's no wonder it's called Get Out, because that's all you're thinking from that point on is, how does this guy get out of this situation? And yeah, that's dread inducing. That's armchair clenching, Damon, if I ever seen it.
It's uncomfortable tension for the first hour, 15 minutes or whatever, just that not quite knowing what's happening to you, but as you said, that sense of dread. It's when he has that realization with the photos and when Rose says, I can't give you the keys. That takes it to a whole new place. That's when it becomes pure fear. Yeah, that's when it becomes pure, like, this is not going to end well for Chris fear. And that speaks also to what you talked about with dread. So it's got levels of fear. This is like a cake of fear. Like, there's just the entire first half of the movie is just that underlying tension and not quite knowing what world you're living in. And then once you realize, you're like, oh, fuck. And that's when it ratchets to a whole different level. This is one of the most tension-inducing movies ever. And it's brilliant. It's one of the best written movies ever. It's one of the best acted movies ever. It's one of the best directed movies ever. I don't like to use the word perfect very often. I used it with Jaws, and I think I'll use it here. This is a perfect movie. Even with my little joke about the red flags, like I would get to fuck out. But as you said, in those moments with Chris's history, there's a reason why he doesn't leave. And Rose does a very good job of manipulating him into not leaving. But this is a movie that is drenched in tension and dread, and it is horrifying. It is terrifying. It is perfect.
Yeah, it's one of the perfect movies, Damon. Before we go, I want to say patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. Right now, okay, people are already listening to episodes that haven't been released yet. They're getting their early release episodes. There's bonus loss episodes there that no one will ever get to hear unless you're a paid patron, which is only $5 a month. It's a hell of a deal. Our breakdown of the Final Destination franchise will also be on our Patreon. If you want to hear us, we talked earlier in the year about the Final Destination franchise. We do our rankings there. You find out what Damon and I ranked those. That's going to be on the Patreon. That's the place to be. And currently, our patrons are voting on our first non-horror podcast that we will be doing soon. Right now, Superman is in the lead. Superman 2025 is in the lead. And the votes are still coming in. You could be part of that voting body. So don't wait. Don't wait. Join patreon.com/rewind the living dead now.
I feel like at some point we're going to need to put a Patreon link up of like the movies we've given the worst reviews to, and they force us to watch again. Like, really, that's gonna happen. Like, we're gonna be like,
oh boy,
we're like
Halloween Ends already wins. You already know that how that poll ends up.
The Final Destination. I'm trying to think of like ones you've not really. There's been some that you've definitely not liked. So nothing quite to the level of my disdain for Halloween Ends.
It's Halloween Ends right away. Yeah, I just know that's gonna get like 98% of the votes.
Let's just watch Damon's head explode during a podcast. It'll be fun.
We've already gotten a request for us to do a commentary track for Halloween Ends, and I'm inclined to oblige that.
That might be the only way you'd ever get me to watch that piece of shit again, just so I can literally rip it.
Tell us how you really feel, Damon.
From one scene to the next. All right. As you mentioned, the Patreon is out there. Make sure you check us out. You can also check us out on all your other favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course over on our YouTube channel. Just search Rewind of the Living Dead. You'll find us there. And you can also find us over on our website, rewindofTheLivingDead.com. You can find the podcast along with other news articles, trailers, all kinds of cool shit over there. So check that out, rewindofTheLivingDead.com. You got questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review, hit us up anytime on email, rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That's rotlivingdead@gmail.com, or find us on social media. Just search Rewind of the Living Dead. You'll find us on Twitter/X. You'll find us on Facebook, and you will definitely find us on Instagram. We are more active on Instagram than anywhere else, but we will always try to get back to you to all of our social media platforms. And you can also find you and I on social media as well. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And a big thank you. And I just hit the wrong button, so forgive me. Went haywire there for a second. Apologize.
I like that.
Yeah, went fucking whoa. That was like, what the fuck just happened? It's when you have a soundboard and you hit the wrong button. That is our podcast for tonight. Want to say a big thank you to check out. We didn't even mention this during the podcast. I'm going to say this out there right now. If you want to watch Get Out, it is available on HBO Max for streaming. So check it out. It is currently over there on HBO Max, so check that out. And as always, we appreciate everyone tuning in to Rewind of the Living Dead. We'll see you next week for a new episode. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.
Peace.